These tips will help you travel cheaper and smarter on your next Interrail trip. If I hadn't done this research, I would not have been able to plan as effectively as I have done. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the One Globe 360 YouTube channel. On today's video, I'm going to be talking all about how to research, plan and book your next Interrail trip away. So I'm so excited to be interrailing with my friend from the 4th to the 25th of April all across Europe. We're going to be travelling to Munich, Milan, Marseille, Barcelona, Paris, Brussels and Amsterdam, and I'm so incredibly excited to bring this camera along with me and to document it all and show it on my YouTube channel. And on today's video, I'm basically here to help you all plan your next Interrail trip. It's been a very interesting process booking it all and researching it, and I want to basically talk about my top tips, how I went through the process of researching, planning and also booking all the individual components to make the perfect Interrail trip. So basically, a breakdown of what is going to be in today's video. I'm firstly going to be talking about how you can book your Interrail pass. Then I'm going to be talking about how you can book the individual trains. Then I'm going to be talking about how to book and find the best hostels. Then I'm going to be talking about how to research and find activities. And then I'm going to be talking sort of generally about some top tips, some budgeting advice. And then I'm going to finally finish the video by basically doing a run through of all the costs and talking about how much all the hostels have cost, how much all the individual trains have cost. So stay tuned to the end of the video if you're really curious to know how much this has all cost me. Okay, so let's start with step number 1, which is booking the Interrail pass. So we used an Interrail planner to plan out and visualize the trip and the cities that we wanted to visit. Our main priority was making sure that we, visited the countries we wanted to, at the same time as making sure that the train journeys wouldn't be too long so that we'd actually end up spending too much time on the trains and not enough time exploring the different cities that we wanted to visit. We used the Interrail, the Interrail official website to plan and book our trip, so I'd recommend that you all do that. And after coming up with an itinerary, spoiler though, wait until the end of the video to find out what our change of itinerary was, because we had to change a few of the cities from what we had originally planned. We then ended up buying the Interrail pass, which was obviously the best option for us. For 3 weeks of travel in Europe, you will save so much money by buying the Interrail pass rather than buying the trains individually or from flying from country to country. The pass that we chose was the 7 travel days pass in a month, which cost £190. Now there are different options in terms of how many travel days that you can get within a month. We went for 7 travel days because the website recommends that if you'd like to visit between 6 to 8 countries or different cities, they recommend that 7 travel days is sufficient to be able to do that. Okay, so step number 2 is booking the individual train journeys. So for us, this was the hard part. We assumed that the £190 that we paid for the Interrail pass would be our only cost for all the transport from getting to A to B. How wrong we were. What was actually the case was that for every journey we had to pay a supplement, and for most train journeys this was between £20 to £25. So essentially the Interrail pass acts kind of like a rail card that we have here in the UK. It means you get heavily discounted train prices. So I'd really recommend doing your research before you book, just to make sure you know exactly how much you will be paying for each train individually. So just to give an example, for one of the train journeys we researched, the full price would be between £60 to £65 when we were only paying £20. So this shows that obviously the trains are cheaper with the Interrail pass, but it's very easy to forget when you're booking these £20 trains from A to B, you think, oh my goodness, this is so cheap. But you do have to remember that you have paid £190 to have the possibility or the benefit of having these cheaper trains, obviously, from A to B when you're booking them throughout Europe. So it's important to bear that all in mind. It's not as cheap as you think it is, but I would say overall, having the Interrail pass definitely saves you money, especially if you're like us, you're visiting, 6 or 7 different cities and you're going to be, going, really covering a lot of ground across Europe. I would say the Interrail pass is definitely the best option for you. So most of the journeys were relatively simple to book and to arrange. However, it is important to note that a lot of them have changes and some of them have, a kind of like a layover essentially in a train station for, it could be a couple of hours or it could be even overnight. So it's important to really plan out, like where you'll be spending your days, where you'll be spending your nights, how long you're prepared to sit on a train to go to the next city for. There are different options. Some have 2 changes, some have 3 changes. Some are in the morning, some are in the afternoon, some are in the evening. Some of the trains are throughout the night. So it's really important to just really consider all your options to make sure that you can essentially spend the most amount of time exploring the cities rather than obviously sitting on a train. I'm sure the trains will be very scenic, but you're there to Interrail and to visit lots of different cities in a relatively short period of time, so you really want to maximize the time exploring the city. So I'd say definitely really consider all the different options and to plan it out to what suits your preferences. There was, however, one leg of the journey that was very inconvenient to book, and I'd say is particularly nerve-wracking for myself and my friend, sort of looking ahead to the Interrail. So this is the train from Milan to Montpellier, and the train goes from Milan to Geneva, and then we had to separately purchase a different ticket from Trainline to get to Lyon from Geneva before we could then sort of pick up the Interrail train from Lyon to Montpellier. And the way the timings have worked out means that we have just under 10 minutes in Lyon train station to find our train to Montpellier. And I'm someone that likes to be at a train station in plenty of time so that I'm not worrying or panicking. And I'm especially, I think, a bit concerned because I obviously have never been to Lyon train station before. I'm hoping it will tell us what platform we'll be on so we can sort of plan ahead. Okay, so step number 3 is booking the hostels. So after the minor stress of booking all the trains, booking the hostels was actually the easy bit. We used Hostelworld, and I've spoken about Hostelworld quite a lot recently in my YouTube videos. In my opinion, it is the best app to use to book hostels around the world. We did lots of research for, which was the best option for us, and Hostelworld has, an incredible filter system which allows you to set your preferences and find the best option for you. Our main priorities, we had three main priorities essentially: being close to the city centre, it being cheap, and also allowing us to have an all-female dorm. Most hostels were between £25 to £40 per night per person, which I think is pretty standard. We could definitely have spent less money, we could definitely have spent more money, but I think overall we found a really good middle ground in terms of it fit our budget perfectly, and it meant that we were able to fulfill our preferences as well. Now, one thing I just want to add is that we are actually staying in Barcelona in a hotel rather than a hostel. We're actually staying in Barcelona for 8 nights, so it's kind of like the middle part of our trip, and we're staying there for, a relatively long time compared to the other cities on our trip. So we didn't really fancy sort of staying in a hostel for 8 nights in Barcelona. We decided that at this part of the trip we would treat ourselves a little bit and get a hotel, which has actually got a swimming pool as well, which I'm super excited for, and it's in an area really, really close to where I have stayed in Barcelona before, so I'm particularly excited to go back to Barcelona for my 3rd time in less than a year. But yeah, that's kind of like a general summary of how to book the hostels. Of course, you will have your own individual preferences, and make sure you prioritize that, because there are lots and lots of different hostels, and I'm sure you will find 1 or 2, per city that really suit your requirements and your preferences. So step number 4 is researching the activities. So I have done most of my research online, and I've looked on loads of different travel blogs, lots of different Instagram accounts, and I've found so much information, so much useful and valuable information online. So my main tip with researching activities would just be use the resources that we all have. Use the internet, use social media to find out what other people have been doing in the cities that you're going to. Many travel bloggers on their blogs have sampled 2 or 3 day itineraries for different cities around the world. I also have some sample itineraries that you can check out by clicking the link in the description to my travel blog. So if you have any recommendations or suggestions for any free activities, or just activities in general in all the cities that I have mentioned, pop them in the comments down below. So they are the 4 steps that you really need to effectively plan your next Interrail trip. I now wanted to sort of talk about what myself and my friend did to plan as effectively as possible. So we used Google Maps and Google Sheets to plan the Interrail trip, and we used Google Docs to brainstorm and write down any key information from our research, and then we used Google Sheets to make a note of all the costs and intricate details such as dates and times of trains. I would also recommend watching lots of YouTube videos to see other people's experiences and any top tips that they have. I'm also going to be bringing my camera along with me to document every day of my experience interrailing. So if you're looking forward to those vlogs, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss an upload. So now I think one of the most interesting parts of the video, and one that I'm sure many of you have been waiting to find out about, which is basically how much does it all cost for a 3-week Interrail trip across Europe. So I'm going to be doing a detailed breakdown of the cost. So we'll break it down first by talking about the transport, so getting from A to B. So it costs, like I mentioned, £190 for the initial Interrail pass. We have also booked a National Express bus to London. We are flying from London Gatwick, and that bus cost £7.55. Then our flight from London to Munich cost £102.97 with EasyJet, and that includes a check-in bag as well. And then the first train from Munich to Milan cost £23.67, which is more or less around €28. Then the train from Milan to Montpellier cost £21.14, which is around €25, with the additional train from Geneva to Lyon costing £20.08. Now the train from Montpellier to Barcelona cost £21.98, which is around €26. And then, like I mentioned, we have booked a flight from Barcelona to Paris in the middle of our trip, and that costs £65.08, which is €76.97. Then our train from Paris to Brussels cost £22.83, which is around €27. And then our final train from Brussels to Amsterdam cost just £18.60, which is €22. And then obviously we have to get home, so our flight from Amsterdam back to the UK cost £108.14, again with EasyJet. So that means the total cost per person for transport for a 3-week Interrail is £602. Now I think that's very reasonable. We definitely could have done it cheaper. It definitely could have been more expensive. I think we found like a really good middle ground, and I'm very happy with that price. I think in terms of the budgeting that we've allowed ourselves, I think we've been flexible but also strict in terms of not wanting to spend too much money. So yeah, £602 has been the total cost for transport. Okay, so now on to the breakdown of the cost of accommodation. So in Munich, we have booked the Wombat the City Hostel, and this has cost £45 per person for 2 nights. Then moving on to Milan, we have booked the Yellow Square Hostel, which is costing £71.20 per person for 2 nights. Then in Montpellier, we've booked a hostel called Acapulco, which is costing £47.80 per person for 2 nights. Then in Barcelona, like I mentioned, we are staying in a hotel. So we have booked the Sun Hotel Club Central, and that is costing £389.25 per person for 8 nights. Then moving on to Paris, we have booked the St. Christopher's in Gare du Nord, which is £89.60 per person for 2 nights. Then moving on to Brussels, we have booked the Meininger Brussels Gare du Midi, which is £56.40 per person for 2 nights. And then finally in Amsterdam, we have booked the Stay OK Amsterdam Vondelpark, which is £79.30 per person for 2 nights. So that brings the total for accommodation to £864 per person for the 3 weeks. Now again, I think that's really, really reasonable. Again, we could have done it cheaper. We could have done it, so that it costs more money. But I think we found a really good balance between budgeting, but also, booking hotels and hostels that really fit to our preferences. So yeah, I guess you then want to know the final total, which is the total for transport and accommodation, which is £1,466 per person. So I think that's really, really reasonable. Let me know in the comments down below if you think that's too much, too little, whether you think we've budgeted too much, whether you think we could have booked some more expensive hostels or cheaper hostels. This is my first time booking an Interrail trip, so it's definitely like a trial and error learning experience, and I'm sort of again thinking, how much of a budget am I going to set myself for the initial trip? I'm thinking the complete total for the whole 3 weeks will cost around £2,000. So that is going to allow me just over £500 for any activities and food across the 3 weeks. We are going to be trying to save as much money as possible and to really budget with the activities and also the food. We're going to be cooking in the hostels. We're going to be trying to do as many free activities as possible. So I will definitely do another video after Interrailing to let you know about my overall experience as well as how much everything cost me. But I really hope you have enjoyed today's video and that it has helped you to plan for your next Interrail trip. If you've got any questions or any recommendations, put them in the comments box down below or send me a DM on Instagram, which is @OneGlobe360. I hope you have enjoyed today's video. Like I said, don't forget to smash the like button, comments down below, and subscribe if you're new, and press that notification bell so you don't miss an upload, and I'll see you in the next video.